going in like a bunch of crazy dogs.
My camera. How about them Giants? How about them Giants? How about them Giants?
Giants fans, what is going on? Welcome to another episode of New York Giants Rush Draft Talk. Today we're going over the one position that's been a little bit of a bane for the New York Giants over the past several years. However, in 2025, things came together, or 2024, things came together a little bit. Certainly progression from 2023 when we had one of the worst offensive lines of all time. Fans, thank you for tuning in. We're going to go over quite a few players tonight. A lot of these guys will be in the range for the Giants to draft. A lot of mid-round picks. A lot of dudes that showed out on Senior Bowl week. So we're excited to kind of discuss which dudes might be viable. And then a lot of these guys here that are going to be pretty flexible in terms of whether or not they're tackles that can move to guard or anything along those lines. So, again, thank you all for coming through. First and foremost, Truth, what is going on?
How you doing, Spartan?
I have a lot of fun breaking down offensive linemen, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And this is a good bunch of guys we got. We're going to talk about today. A lot of depth, especially in the offensive tackles.
Yeah, and I guess what's a little unique here is there's a lot of tackles. There's also a lot of tackles that can move to guard.
Yep.
There's not really any centers that are worthwhile talking about. That was a little bit unique because I've never seen like one position group just a little depleted in terms of whether or not it's even worth talking about it.
Yeah, and we're not going to talk about the center position. Sorry if someone was hoping we would. But, yeah, we're going to talk mostly about tackles and a few good quality guards we got in this draft.
Yeah. No, 100%. All right, and then tonight we have our special guest, New York Giants Rush's own Shawn Joker. What is going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Excited to be here talking O-lineman. As a former running back, I always appreciate O-lineman, so it's yeah, guys that made me look good. So,
hey, man, yeah, we got some big boys to discuss. We got a pretty big list, and I guess what makes this one unique, Shawn, is let's talk about a couple things. There's probably going to be a stretch there from about pick 20, really up until the butt end of round 2, where you could see 8, maybe even 9 of these guys because they're all ranked right around the same ballpark. And that's when you're going to see a lot of linemen fall off, similar to cornerback in the same spot as last year. Do you predict something along those lines?
I think a lot of linemen are going to drop because of the talent at D tackle and running back. I think that's going to push some linemen back further back than people are projecting. Similar to kind of what happened last year because of the run on quarterbacks and wide receivers. Some other positions, good talent, first-round talent dropped to the second and second drop the third. So I predict the same kind of thing happening, especially because with some of the guys and what they did at Senior Bowl, like some helped and some didn't. So I do predict that there's going to be some old linemen that are going to drop further down. So you could see some good guys in that, second and third round.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Well, guys, look, why don't we just get right into it, and we'll go player by player, and then maybe at the end we'll just talk a little bit about the probability of the Giants getting any of these guys or something along those lines. And I think it's pretty obvious. We don't have to make this not be known. We're probably not going to get one of the top offensive tackles. That is not what they're going to do with the pick. But when we start getting the mid-rounds, it's certainly a possibility, especially if one of the top guys falls. So let's start off from the top. There's 2 guys that are pretty much tied for being, the top-rated tackle, Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks. So Will Campbell is LSU's left tackle, 6'6", 323. That's solid size for an offensive lineman. He has very strong passing grade, near elite. He went 24 games without giving up a single sack, and I'll talk about that tonight, how many sacks each of these guys has given up. It's going to be a little different for the guards just because it's traditional. They don't really give up as many sacks as the tackles, but I want to make note of this. So 5 over the course of 3 years, 24-game streak. That's very impressive in the SEC because they have to play some very good defensive lines throughout, on a week-to-week basis. Position rank between 1 and 2, where you'd see him drafted, it could be anywhere from pick 8 to pick 15. I would imagine he's going to be in the ballpark. But if anybody really feels the need to draft an offensive lineman, he can go even higher. Truth, what are your guys? What's your thought?
No, I agree with you. I actually think he can go get picked before pick number 8. You got a few teams that could be looking for him in that 4 to 8 spot. I think you just mentioned it. 25-something street game. He only gave up 2 sacks. The kid has good footwork, good hand usage. So and he stays balanced. So that's what I noticed about him. He had good footwork, stayed balanced.
Yeah. Shawn, what were your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, funny. One of the things I did see, contrary to what Truth was just saying, there is that he can be knocked off balance at times, and especially when it comes to lateral blocks is where his issue. But he's a high risk, high reward is what they're looking at, right? And he was battle tested, against elite pass rushers in the SEC. So he does move his feet really well. He's got good punch. So it's a guy who's athletic. With that, the comp that I saw for him was Taylor Decker. But he's a guy, it's him and Calvin Banks Jr., the top 2 easily.
Yeah, no, Campbell, I mean, you watch his game tape and he hunkers down the 4. He does a really good job at that position. If balance, the footwork, if some of those things need to be worked on, obviously, teams just got to be mindful of it. Obviously that was Evan Neal's problem. He was, the footwork was a little choppy, and it was a little rough when he translated that first year in the NFL. Granted, Evan Neal also went from left tackle to right tackle, which is a little bit challenging. And then he got injured the second year, and we're hoping for recovery. But this isn't the Evan Neal redemption show. This is draft talk. So we'll move right on to the number 2, or however you look at it, the number 1 guy, Calvin Banks. Pretty much the same thing. His pass blocking grade was even higher. Run blocking was solid as well. 4 sacks over the course of 3 seasons. He had 2 this year. However, if you go online, you'll see that it was that both sacks were actually kind of Quinn Ewers' fault. And he's projected to kind of go right around that same ballpark. He is 6'4", and I kind of wanted to talk about that with both of you. So, Joker, if you want to go first and give us your thoughts on him, and then we'll hand it over to Truth.
Yeah, so I mean, I watch a lot of Texas games, and so he's a guy I'm definitely very high on. He technically sound. He's a scrappy dude, which I like. Again, he's going against guys in that SEC that he's being tested against future pros. Good pace when it comes to that. Good initial quickness. He does his pass protection is not as pro ready as his run blocking, which is a concern, obviously, but not that big of it is what it is. The other thing too is that the concern, and this will, as he gets old, as he matures and grows, but there's a little bit of lacking the thickness in the limbs, and his hand placement can get a little sloppy at times too. But I mean, again, we're nitpicking guys throughout, right? If you read some of these breakdowns, that you'd be like, all right, we're not going to pick anybody, right? Nobody's going to pick anybody, but I mean, it's what they got to work on. But he's a guy I do really like, and again, he's been good for a while there.
Yeah. I'll hand it right back over to you, Truth. I think the one thing that's fortunate about linemen is, if you look at some of the draft analytics, a lot of the criticisms are such minor things that can be worked on when they're trying to find things that they need to improve. This position is a little bit easy in terms of just trying to find that consistency, and then you almost deduct from there anything that might not translate to the NFL if there are some issues with the game that was overcome because of the level of competition or something like that. Truth, want to hear your thoughts on him too, on the top guy.
Well, no, top 15 pick for sure, and I see him most likely, more than likely, transition to a guard because of his measurements. You talked about his height, but he's also his length of his arms, and very versatile, of course. And like Shawn said, he played against very good competition, so he is tested, battle tested. So he's a quality. I think he'll be a day 1 starter.
Does 6'4" concern you?
Doesn't concern me. I think whoever's going to draft him is going to have that in their mind that he's versatile and they can move him to guard. I don't think that's. Shawn, what do you think?
I mean, I not really, and I mean, I think he could stay at tackle. I mean, they may shift him to right tackle, make that work. So I think he's a guy that could get moved, but I think he's a guy that could stay at tackle as well.
For sure. Yeah, just want to hear your thoughts. Obviously, we like to see those numbers 6'6", 6'7", 6'4". But when it comes to 6'4", it's on the shorter end. But as to how it translates to their playing ability. Obviously, if they're able to execute, they're able to execute, right? So just wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's more concerning if he had short arms, which I didn't see anything that said he had short arms. So you can be 6'4" and have long arms and do what you need to do. So that's the biggest thing for tackles is their length in their arms.
100%. Yeah, when we get to a guy like Marcus Melbo, like then we'll talk about arm length and everything like that. But you're right, 6'4" if he's got those arms, it's going to be a huge advantage. So Josh Simmons is the right tackle at Ohio State because we're also going over their left tackle tonight. Simmons, 6'5", 310. He's 22 years old. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. And hey, now he only played 6 games, but he did have 0 sacks last year in the season, which at least through 6 games is what you want to hear. Go ahead, Drew.
No, a lot of talk, a lot of stuff I read on him and watched. They said if this kid would stay healthy, he'd probably be the first lineman in this draft. So he's got a lot of talent, and he's got the measurements you like. He's very athletic, and I think he'll be that right tackle whoever gets him. And again, I got him a first round pick, mid first round pick, round 20, somewhere around there, and he'll be a good player. He should be another one, day one starter.
Yeah, the only concern with that is he had that season-ending injury. So can that drop his stock down? Because everything else, and now the other thing is that a guy that can get moved to guard as well. Because I saw some DJ Humphreys comps for him, but I mean everything. Extremely athletic. He's smooth, out in space and getting to the linebackers, which is what you want to see. And again, some of those qualities when you talk about getting in space, moving to the second level, those are things. Maybe he's the guy that does get moved to guard, especially with the injury that he had there. So I know that's a big concern. But yeah, he's a guy to be high on. And it's hard for me to talk greatly of Ohio State players, and we got 2 of them here tonight. So y'all are killing me.
Is he projected to be ready for either the combine or his pro day?
I don't know. There's concerns. I mean, again, it was season ending pretty bad, so there are concerns still. If he's going to be ready to go, what he can do. So I think I know where you mentioned he was projected, but I think he's a guy that could potentially fall because of that injury.
That'd be a great steal if he does fall in the second round. Like you said, that'd be a great steal.
Yeah. Because who was the Michigan O lineman that fell too? Because he had that serious injury.
It was Zach. The hell is his name? He's a New Hampshire kid. One sec, I'll look him up.
Yeah, because he got hurt in the bowl game or whatever it was, and he would have been a high.
Zach Zinner. That's who it is.
Yeah. So he dropped drastically because of that injury. So it'll be curious to see what Simmons does and how he dropped because of that injury.
Yeah. For a team that needs a right tackle and not a left tackle, I mean, this is one where it's like, look, I mean, you really got to consider it between him and the next guy. That is a little bit of an easier transition. If I'm not mistaken, when we got Andrew Thomas, big reason why we got him was because we needed a left tackle, not a right tackle to transfer left tackle, right? So we got him over a guy like Wirfs.
Yeah.
Yep.
On to the next guy. So this is actually the shortest of the offensive linemen. Armand Membao from Missouri. Missouri's done a really good job of developing players as of late. I mean, you used to never really hear that school for a lot of dudes. And over the past few years, they've actually produced some pretty solid talent. So he's 6'3", right, which is at the shorter end, but he's 20 years old, which means he's got the most growing to do, if anybody, and most maturing to do as a player. That's pretty attractive. He played right tackle, and he had 1 sack and 3 pressures allowed throughout the last year. Position rank 4, going to be around that ballpark, and then just overall rank where you can see him go. End of the first, probably second. That's what his trajectory is. Shawn, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, the height is a big concern there. He does have great body control and poise in his pass set, so that's good. That'll help him there with that. He does have twitchy hands. Again, another good thing there. He's controlled there. He does have inconsistent feet. So again, if you're talking about a guy who's undersized, playing tackle with inconsistent feet, maybe that's another guy that gets moved over to guard. So those are the concerns, when it comes to that. But like you said, I mean, he's young, so could be a guy that grows something more. So we'll see.
Yeah, I like this kid. I saw a lot of his film. Plays to the whistle. He's very nasty in the trenches. He plays mean. I like that. Very athletic. I think Shawn mentioned that. And I definitely see this kid transition to guard. He's good open field blocker. So team that likes to pull a little bit, get to the second level blocking. I think this kid would excel.
Yeah, and he's going to be a good situation, especially if he goes at the end of the first round, or goes to the Chiefs or anything along those lines. Those teams will be able to equip him. Of course, then the flip side is, and you immediately go back to the bottom of the tier if you go over that lip. So it'll be kind of interesting to see where he winds up and how these teams use him over time.
Yeah, I mean, he could be a Trey Smith replacement potentially too, right? Depending on if there's a tackle there, or if they don't get a tackle in free agency for the Chiefs, that's a guy that could slot in, for losing Trey Smith, I think.
Oh, they'll definitely be there. You're right. In back of the first, they'll be a good lineman there. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So the next guy, this is somebody who got knocked by Daniel Jeremiah as not having the best pro Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
Wyatt Milne out of West Virginia. So big dude, 6'6", 317 pounds. He's 23 years old. He plays left tackle. And overall throughout the season, though, his passing grade and his run blocking grade were phenomenal. He did a really good job. 0 sacks over the course of 2 years. Want to hear your guys' thoughts?
Go ahead, Truth.
It's one thing about the senior week, or the combine. It can make or break you, the way you perform. And sometimes it's not really in it could be as an NFL player. And I think this is one of them, this kid. He had some pretty good numbers as a pass defender at West Virginia. He had one. I think it was last year, 2 years ago. He had no sacks allowed in 305 snaps.
Yeah.
In a stretch of games, and he's got good. He's another athlete, and I think he'll be a tackle. He's got nice measurements to do that. Looks like he could put weight on too on that frame, even though he's shown 317 pounds. I don't know how accurate that is. He looks thinner than that when you watch games, but I guess the combine will know how big they are. But I like this kid. I think he's better than what he showed in the senior week.
Yeah. Shawn, what about you? I mean, I know you're pretty close to Daniel Jeremiah and his grades and insights to these players. I mean,
yeah.
Were you a fan of this dude, or what do you have on him?
I mean, yeah. Listen, I'll say this. When it comes to Daniel Jeremiah, he's really the one guy that I trust, and his evaluation is usually spot on. I mean, does he get some things wrong? Yes, but I think he's a guy, having been the scout, having done it, he's the one I really pay attention to. So what I do like, and listen, some people have a bad week, they have whatever it is, right? So but he's a strong kid, and what I like about him is that he's assignment focused, so he knows what he needs to do. He knows what his assignments are in play, and that's, to me, that's going to translate over to the NFL. He's got good pad level, he's got good instincts. Again, another guy that can he can handle and adjust to moving targets at the second level, which is another thing that will translate over to the NFL. It's the footwork. He's got average, foot quickness, and those are things that's probably why he struggled a little bit. Didn't have a good week at the Senior Bowl. You got against some, a little quicker pass rushers than he was used to, right? And so average footwork. But again, you can improve footwork. Like, you can make that better.
Yeah.
It just the base is another thing he has to work on. When he's a gauge, his base gets off a little bit, so that's where he can get beat there too. But listen, West Virginia toughness. You get some guys that are tough and smart. I mean, that's what you want out of an O lineman. So
yeah, and he's West Virginia born and raised. He's not he's not somebody that was from New York or something like that and then went there out of high school. Like he is that West Virginia strong, and it's almost like, I can rock with that. Let's go.
Yep.
Same thing goes for guys that went to North Dakota State.
Yes.
And that's our next guy, Gray's Abel. Guys, he was projected to go potentially second round, third round, or later second, third. Could have even been later, because he plays at North Dakota State. He had the weakest level of competition just about of everybody that we're going over. However, during his time there, he had a perfect passing grade, and his run blocking was phenomenal too. So the story, the big telling for him was, how was he going to do at the Senior Bowl, and he did pretty damn good. He is a left tackle, but he's played every position for the most part. 6'6", 310, 0 sacks, of course. And he's now projected to be even possibly go at the end of the first. Truth, what are your thoughts on the dude?
Well, I'll be fair. Shawn, you can go first.
Sorry, guys, I'm out of order. Shawn, you go
That's
ahead.
okay. That's
All
okay.
right, we got it. So this is a guy that, I'm going to be very high on. When you go and you dominate at the Senior Bowl for a week, and I love those small school guys. I don't care what anybody says. He's a tough guy. He played 4 out of 5 positions at the Senior Bowl, including center. And this is what I like. And as Giants fans, we should be excited about this. He's good with twists and stunts. So if you can handle a twist or a stunt, you can come play for the Giants. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Please.
Yeah, right. And so, again, he's a tough kid, and I like that. I like that tough. I like that thing. And he didn't listen. I think if I remember correctly, he took the most reps at Senior Bowl for offensive linemen. And that is something that you want to see because he didn't back down from any challenges. Right. So, a guy I'm very high on. And as Jay said in the comments, he knew I was going to be bullish because why would you not be bullish on a guy like this? Right. Come on.
No, absolutely. And he did win Lineman of the Week in the Senior Bowl.
Yes.
And I agree with you, Shawnee. I love seeing these kids come from, relatively unproven schools, programs, and they excel against the elite. I think almost every year we see someone like this. What was that guy's name that came up? I think it was a year or two. Cody Mock.
Yeah.
Oh man, I mean, I love that kid. I was hoping the Giants get him, but here's another one. I love this kid. Like you said, he played every position in the line during the week, and he excelled. And he looked like a man against boys in a lot of those drills, And here's another guy who's like Spartan. You said he is skyrocketing up that draft board. I was shocked when I looked and saw a lot of these mock drafts, and he's like in 25 to 32 range, getting picked now. And God, if he has a good combine, could he move up even further? If they show his athleticism. So I think the sky's the limit for this kid.
Yeah.
Look, when I hear certain schools, I'm just and it's a lineman, I'm like, draft them. I don't care, but just do it. Iowa, Michigan, Wisconsin between 2007 and 2012. I don't really know if they do that anymore, but they used to run tables on that. But North Dakota State's running up there, guys. I mean, they're always FCS contenders, right? Had that dynasty. It's still going for the most part, but they do a good job of producing NFL players, especially linemen.
I know it's unfortunate he's going to be out of the Giants' range because it'd been nice to have him and Jake Kubas together.
Oh God, yeah.
Right?
You got Jake Cooper starting. You got him starting next year, don't you?
Listen, do not be surprised if Jake Kubas is. I think I'm gonna say he's gonna start next year, but he'll be a starter at some point. He showed some things last season.
He did progress good last year. Yes, he did.
Yeah, so don't be surprised if he's starting at some point. He's probably going to be Running's replacement, right? As Running gets older,
could be.
Dakota State guy himself. Let's go.
Yeah.
Look at Jay. He's giving his prediction. the bottom one.
Yep. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
probably mocking me.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get to like what the Giants do about linemen in the draft, and I already kind of know how we feel individually about what the Giants should do, but talk about building blocks for the future and whatnot. But until then, let's go to the next guy. So we're moving on to Oregon. Josh Connerly. So 6'4", 315, pretty good athlete overall. 90 for his pass blocking grade is pretty damn good. His run blocking is kind of where he needs a little bit of work. And he gave up 2 sacks last year. His projection range is early second as well. I'll give it to Truth. Truth, what did you have for him?
He's a good player, and I did put down early second, and you know what, he could go late first. It all depends, how the draft board develops. But he's a talented lineman. Another guy who's versatile. He could play guard if a team who drafts him wants him to move the guard. It all depends on what they got. I know he had a little bit of a downer at the senior week when Green kind of dominated him and bowled him over on a couple of plays. But the kid can play. The kid's got talent, and you know, I think he's as advertised, as good as he's advertised. He's a good player.
What do you got on him, Shawn?
Well, so we get to the point in the show where Truth and I have our first disagreement.
What a shocker!
Yeah. Not bad though. It's only one.
It was a lot later than your disagreement with Craig the other night. That was within the first.
That was comical, Shawnee. That was comical.
Joker came out in full force the other night.
Tables, ladders, and chairs for 25 minutes.
Right.
I think Chris got his tax returns done while you guys were.
I know. Makes for good TV. It needs to happen.
100%. That's what it's all about.
I get passionate about certain things, and plus I'd been on Twitter all day long and seeing some of the stuff that was going on there, so I was fired up.
Oh yeah. I feel you.
Yep. But so he really struggled at the Senior Bowl, and he struggled against not just Green. He struggled against a lot of the elite, the fast pass rushers there, the quick rushers. I think he really hurt his stock at the Senior Bowl because a lot of people took notice. A lot of people were talking about it. So I think he's going to drop in the draft. Now, he does have the potential to get up there. The problem is his biggest weakness, which, again, is what showed up at the Senior Bowl, and I think will hurt him at the NFL level, is that he doesn't play – he's got to improve his play strength. And so he struggles with that, and he struggles with the speed rushers. And, again, that's going to hurt him at the NFL level. But he's a guy that I think can improve. It's there. He just – again, he's proportionally built, which is what you want to see. It's just that Senior Bowl, he went up against a lot of speed rushers, and his weaknesses really showed more than anybody else. And like I said, a lot of people were commenting, a lot of, the right people were commenting on the tough week that they have. So that's a guy that I think will drop, and I have a little more concern with.
Do you think that a team that might consider him drafted will say, you know what, let's put him in the inside as a guard, and because of what you're saying about his footwork for edge rushers?
I mean, they could. I mean, it's a possibility that they could move him there. I mean, again, if they saw what they saw, I mean, and I don't know how much you guys watched, but I watched all of those practices, and he really did struggle a lot in those one-on-ones. Now, again, they're geared towards defensive guys, but he's struggling in a way where you're like, yeah, that's concerning. So he could be a guy that they could look to move to that. I think if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, Truth, because you'll definitely know this, but I think he was the one that started the least amount of games at tackle than a lot of the other guys we're talking here. Like, I think he was like a 2-year starter, where most of the other guys were like 3 or 4-year starters.
Yeah. He doesn't have a lot of snaps under his belt.
Yeah, so that hurts him too, I think.
So he's in progress. He's a work in progress, you're saying.
Yeah, and Oregon's offense is, you can get away with things there because they are kind of a timing offense, right? Yeah. So everything's there. So those weaknesses don't show up in game film, but when you get at the Senior Bowl, when you're doing normal, a normal offense, but if you put him in an offense similar to what he had at Oregon, he's probably going to be okay, is my thought.
Yeah. All right, we got on to the next guy, because I realize we're not halfway through the list, but we're pretty much halfway with time.
We're making good time. Keep going. You're doing good.
Jonas Vania out of Arizona. Pass blocking grade, phenomenal. He does a really good job there. Although he did give up 4 sacks, and that is something that should be noted, because we're generally going over guys that had a little bit less than that, but there's obviously situational stuff similar to Kelvin Banks giving up those 2. But overall, a big dude out of Arizona who's been, again, another program that has done pretty okay over the last couple of years. This past season, a little bit of a disappointment. 2023 was better. Shawn, we will start with you. I want to hear your thoughts on this guy.
Yeah, so this was the guy I was trying to think of when we were talking backstage. So he's the one that definitely projects to guard at the next level. He was a 3-year starter, so he does have that, which is good. He's a space eater. I mean, you look at his size, right? 6'5", 336. So to me, the projection to guard makes a lot of sense. He's good with, again, like a couple of other guys I mentioned earlier, he's a guy that can do things at the second level, which is what you need out of that guard position. He does have, so this is a concern. So he's got below average reactions to twists. So that's something he's going to have to improve upon there.
I had like little PTSD when you said that.
Listen, I do too. Every time I see that, I'm like, all right, that's a red flag. Anybody can handle a twist.
Yeah.
And he does have trouble anchoring against bull rushers, which is another reason why he's going to project the guard, but it's something he'll have to work on at the next level so he doesn't get bull rush at, as a guard there.
So if we're talking about like a defensive tackle in a 3-4 defense, those kind of guys are running him over.
Run him over, yeah. And he had a tough week at the Senior Bowl too. Like which is again another which is again why he needs to go to guard, because he got exposed at that Senior Bowl, by not just to Mike Green, which Mike Green exposed a lot of people. Let's be honest.
Yeah, he sure did.
Yeah. But he got exposed by some other people too. So again, to me, it makes a lot of sense why they're projecting him as guard.
Yeah, and I think to your point, Shawn, about his he lunges a lot.
Yeah.
Which as you guys know, when you do that, you're vulnerable. You have to. He's got to get better balance, better base. A guy that big should not get bull rushed and bull knocked over. He should not. He's a big guy. He should cement himself and get better with that. He does have a problem with his hand placement and usage, but the talent's there, and I think moving a guard will make him a much better player. Almost like with Beckham, Becton, what he did.
Becton, yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be this guy's future.
I want to Arante Ursary out of Minnesota. So this dude's 23 years old, so he's a little bit at the older end. It's funny, though. We go through the quarterbacks. We're seeing a lot of 24, 25-year-old guys there. Linemen traditionally used to be one of the older classes because they were encouraged to go out early. But as I look through this age list, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but it's a little bit younger than what I've seen in the past. Minnesota's done a good job of developing talent over the past 7 years or so under Fleck. This guy overall is a little bit of a better pass blocker than a run blocker. Not too much of a variance there. He gave up 3 sacks last year. Projection second round. Want to hear your guys' thoughts on him. And late second, by the way, not early. We're kind of past that part.
Yeah, but late second is not too shabby, right? Top 60 player.
No.
Yeah, he's got the length. Big boy, another big kid, 6'6", 330. I didn't watch a whole lot of tape on him. I watched probably a medium tape on this kid. But he looks pretty good to me. He's got good length, like I said. He's a good run blocker. And again, not every guy is going to be perfect here. They're all going to have flaws. So if they were perfect, they'd be Jonathan Ogden. If they would be perfect.
Yeah.
So, but I like him. I think he'll fit in good with an NFL team that's looking for a road grader who can help with the running game. Solid pick, quality pick in round 2.
Yeah, this is a guy that I'm 3-year starter, so that's excellent. If you're a 3-year starter at left tackle, that's good. He's got good power. He's got the broad chest. He's got long arms, so he's got all the things that you look
limb
for.
Thickness. You were talking about that earlier, but if you look at his arms, it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, so that's what you want out of that. He's got strong, sticky hands, which is, again, what you want out of that tackle position. He's good on combo blocks, another thing that's going to translate well to the NFL. The only thing he's got to work on is, his knee bends. He can lunge a little bit, which gets him, lower knee bend. And then he's got tight hips at times, which doesn't help him to recover to be able to twist, turn, to be able to recover if he's gotten beat by a speed rush. So, but again, 3-year starter at left tackle, in the Big Ten, you gotta like that. Yeah. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, he's a big frame dude, and I'm with you, Shawn. The fact that he was starting for 3 years is attractive, right?
Yeah. All right. I mean, the Big Ten's no SEC, but they got some decent pass rushers.
No, 100%. I mean, look, a lot of good linemen have come from the Big Ten. Like I said, I mean, Iowa, Michigan have been minting them pretty regularly the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Minnesota, has kind of the same schedule, and I think they've done a better job, certainly compared to what they were for the last 50 years. But in the last 7 years, they've done an excellent job of minting out some NFL players.
Yeah.
Now we're on to the right tackle of Texas. So we've gone over a couple schools that have a few guys or 2 linemen listed, but Cameron Williams was the other offensive tackle. So he's 21 years old. big dude, 6'5" is pretty sizable. Could also move to guard. Similar to the last guy, he doesn't have much of a variance between his run and pass blocking rate. But want to hear from you because he's projected to go a little bit. Again, we're talking about a second rounder. What's he good at, and what is he got to work on? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Shawn,
does that mean it's time truth? All right. Yeah. So, massive frame, obviously, right? So that's a good thing. He gets his head back in pass pro, which is good. He creates pop on contact, again, which is an excellent thing you want. And it's probably because of his age, because he is young, but his upper and lower body, can get out of unison, which is not what you want. They need to be working together. He does have subpar bend. And foot quickness. So those two things being subpar could mean he translates over to guard. And sometimes, he can get a little too tall on run blocks, but again, he's 6'5", so that can happen. Right. So, but I think it might be a guy, but I do like him. And again, having watched him, as I mentioned, he's another guy that he's just massive, right? Like those massive guys that maybe aren't quick or footwork. Those are the guys you move the guard because nobody's getting around him, at guard. So I think it's a new trend, just put it up there. But he's a guy I think he can develop because he's young, and I do like him. But I think he's more of a guard.
Yeah, and he is young. So, but there's room there. You can develop this kid. Don't try to rush him. Like you mentioned, the pop, Shawn. He's got heavy hands. I like that about him. Nasty. I watched when I watched the game, even the game they lost against Ohio State. I watched him, and a lot of times when he made a good block and he got the guy down, he piled right him. He went down with him and just drilled him into the ground. I love that. I love that when a lineman does that. I really do.
Yeah, and, I do too.
Yeah. And again, young kid. Like you said, he needs to work on certain things. Footwork is one of them. But with good coaching, he's going to get better. So, like Shawn said early in the show, a lot of these guys are going to probably get picked a little bit later when we're projecting, which makes sense because of the talent in other positions. So this guy goes early third round. That's a good pick. That's a good pick, and that's where the Giants are going to be picking. So you never know.
Yeah.
I don't think the Giants get a lineman at this second pick. They could, but I don't see it.
No, not in round 2. I don't see it. Could be round 3 or 4.
And we're getting there, right? We're starting to get to the guys that could certainly fall. Some of the last couple guys could, but this is a little bit more of like you could probably expect him to be right there.
Yeah.
All right, next guy on the list, Marcus Mal out of Purdue. So 6'5", 300, and that's one of the critiques is that he's got a lean frame. And if you look at his, a picture of him, you'll see that he's a little thin, especially in the chest area. He gave up 3 sacks last year, and he's one of the few guys on the list that's actually a better run blocker than pass blocker in my view. But Truth, I'll hand it to you first.
Well, yeah, you mentioned his frame. Here's another kid who looks like he could put more weight on. He looks like, especially in the lower body. What I did notice a quality about him that was nice. Again, another kid who plays mean. I like that. One thing I did notice that he did lack stunt recognition. I saw a couple of plays where he didn't pick up a stunt, and Giant fans are well aware of that in our line. So that's something that he'll eventually have to learn, and hopefully he will. That's what you like to think. They get developed, they get to learn and pick up on this stuff. But he's a good player. He's a good, what I have him for late 2, probably a day 3, more of a round 3 pick, I think. So quality player, room to grow.
And Shawn?
Yeah, I agree. He's 21, so that frame can get bigger easily with that. Again, you talk about another Big Ten lineman, so they just produce linemen, from that standpoint. The concerns about the stunt, obviously, we're definitely with that. But I do like he's got a nasty attitude, and that's, you want to see that in a lineman, so I do like that. But I think he's a kid that will need time to develop for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that might be the case for a few of these guys that we're going to kind of move on to next. Next guy I want to talk about, so this is actually the first New York native that we're going over. So Johnny Cornelius is actually from Harlem. And his story is he transferred from University of Rhode Island, so FCS level, to Oregon, which has been pretty cool with the transfer portals to be able to see the guys that are at these FCS schools or smaller schools and transfer and perform really well when they go to these big powerhouse programs, right?
Yeah.
And he did exactly that. He didn't give up a sack last year. He's not consistent with the passing or the blocking, but he's pretty good, and you can expect him to go late third, early fourth, and at the very least, you're getting you're getting a dude that's 6'5", 315, and from the area, right? So I think he's a pretty attractive option. Truth, what do you got?
Shawnee's turn. Shawnee goes.
Eh.
Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, so I mean, he's really good with pass protection. He's got good length, got good mobility. He's really, again, it's that what I like, unlike Connolly, is that he went from Rhode Island to Oregon. So that is, to me, that's a good positive. You go from Rhode Island and step up your competition, even though he was in that same type of offensive style. Maybe some weaknesses get exposed there. The fact that he was at Rhode Island, I do like that. So if you can compete at Rhode Island and you go to Big Ten and do well there, I like that. That shows something to me. Yeah. So I think he's again, good size there. So 22. So he's not on the younger side. He's right about where you would be right at this point. So does he project the guard? I don't know. I think he probably stays at tackle. What do you got on him, Truth?
Yeah, I think it, like you said, I think it's a possibility. This guy gets overlooked because of Connolly. He's a good player, this kid, and he is at the age where you expect at 22. What I saw when I watched the game, because of Oregon's style, he serves more in the pass as a pass protector because they do a lot of that. They don't obviously Gabriel doesn't hold on to the ball. They rely on quick slants and quick outs, but these kids got good length, good mobility. I think he could stay at right tackle and be a good productive lineman. I'm not saying he'll be a star, but he could be competing for a starting role.
Got it. We're kind of at the home run stretch here. The last couple tackles before we kind of get into Truth. Dudes that are also playing guard.
Yeah.
So 6'8" is very attractive for a lineman. I love to see it. Big frame, a little thinner. He even has some room to grow. But I think of that O'Neal dude at Minnesota or at on the Vikings, and I'm thinking of like the same kind of player. So Ozzie Trapillo out of Boston College, very tall frame, smart dude, good thickness. And last year I have it. He gave up 2 sacks, which is fair. What are your thoughts on him, Truth?
Well, I like this kid. I really do. A little older, 23. I like him. I think if the Giants do not address the swing tackle in free agency, I think this kid has the makeup to do that for them. He has played both left and right, plays more right. I think he could be a good depth piece for the Giants. I got him going in round 3, and it could be early round 4, I mean, because of the depth of this draft. But I do like this kid. He has a lot of things I like about him: mobility, lateral quickness, good size, could fill that frame up a little more. So I think that's somebody I'm going to keep my eye on.
Yeah. Agreed. And listen, I'm partial to Boston College linemen, obviously with Snee and what he did. And Boston College coming back around again with their linemen. I mean, you look at Christian Mahogany last year, right?
Yeah.
Another guy. So here's the guy that when you talk about, Spartan, you talked about programs earlier to keep an eye on. When it comes to O-line, Boston College is another program to keep an eye on with linemen coming out for them. So I think this is the guy that they can do well. But like True said, he can put some more meat on those bones. But he's 6'8". I mean, good God, that's
Yeah.
So
we got another 6'8" guy right now to talk about. Yeah. So Holland Pierce out of Rutgers, guys. If you look at a picture of him, especially like the way that he has his shoulder pads, he's got a bit of a cowboy collar. He's a badass. He's a badass looking dude, man. Yeah. And he's academic. He's 3 years in a row academic All Big Ten.
Yeah.
6'8". He is 355 pounds. He actually, he gets graded pretty well with both the passing and the run blocking. Thing is, he did give up 5 sacks last year. If you look at him, you watch his tape, it might be hard to tell that he's a guy projected to go as kind of as late as he is right here in the 4th round. But he's also a New Jersey guy himself. He went to Trenton Central High School out of New Jersey, right? did a 5th year of high school at a military academy, and then went over to Rutgers. So he's been focusing on his development for a long time. His run block, 3 years academic, all Big Ten is phenomenal. That says a lot about his character. I really like him for like a 4th round pick. But Truth, what are your thoughts?
Shawnee goes. Sean's turn.
So my question on him is, I mean, if you look, he's another guy that I know he's 6'8", but is this another guy based on what his skill set is that maybe they look at making a Mekhi Becton move and move him to guard, like if they can't develop him earlier on. Listen, give me New Jersey tough all day long, Northeast tough all day long, right? Like,
and Northeast smart.
Yes, exactly. You beat me to it. That was the next thing I was going to say. So give me somebody with that size. Give me somebody who can develop. And if you're talking about a 4th round pick, it's a guy that you can look at to develop there. So that's what I think of him. He's got a cool name too. That's a lineman name right there.
Badass name, man. Yeah. Badass look.
I mean, you're born to do nothing else but be a lineman with that name.
Badass, just all around. Like this dude's terrific. But Truth, I need the skinny from you. Like, why is he held back so far? Like, why is he a 4th round pick and not a 2nd round or better?
I think because he's raw, a little raw. He's a project a little bit. I think the speed of the game is going to really be an issue for him with his footwork.
He's 23, 24. He is old.
Yeah. He like you said, he's a big guy, thick guy. He excels between the tackles. He's a very strong road grader, good head-on blocker in the running game. But I think the speed of the game, a little bit more, needs to get better in his technique, footwork, hand placement. I think if I was an offensive line coach, I would love to have a kid like this to groom, to develop. I think this is something that you vision somebody raw and develop into a real solid lineman down the road. But they got to be patient. I know he's 23, 24, but they still got to be patient. They can't rush the kid. Let him get the speed, catch up with the speed in the NFL. That's the biggest thing.
I wouldn't mind that because not only does he sound like developmental from the standpoint of his game, but he also sounds like he can be a leader in the long run too. Yeah. And you sign it. You kind of see when they sign Jermaine Illuminor how much that matters, having that good solid leadership, right? So maybe he can be somebody that starts out as a backup but kind of works their way in and develps into
good rotational piece. And keep in mind, guys, that you got a good depth here at the tackle position. So someone's going to have to fall, and he's one of them. He's going to fall because of the depth. Not only in tackle, you got running back, like Shawn mentioned earlier. You got other positions where you got depth. So guys are going to fall in this draft.
You think he could fall to the 5th round? Truth?
Yeah. Why not? It's possible.
I mean, I think that's a risk to take. If he falls to the, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable the Giants take him at 4th with the other needs that they have. But if a 5th round, I think I'd feel more comfortable there, right? Yeah,
absolutely. Because you think about the Giants' 5th round, it's really the back end of the 4th round, right? They're picking high in the 5th round, so it's not that many spots.
Yep.
So what about Tyler Booker then, Truth, out of Alabama? And this is a guy, we're kind of getting the last 4 dudes here are guys tackle
guards.
Really guards, so yeah. All right, what do you got on him?
Good player. No, he's a good player. He's I think he's going to play guard in the NFL. He's got nice blend of size, strength, solid blocker between the tackles. That's what I saw. I watched a lot of Georgia games this year, and I think he's pretty good and with his technique. He's not a finished product. None of them are, but he's pretty close. And it wouldn't shock me, guys, if I saw him going in the late in the first round. It wouldn't shock me if someone sees something in him, thinking of his versatility, at his athletic ability. So it wouldn't be a shocker if he goes late first. But I got him early second.
Yeah, he's a well-rounded dude. I mean, he's got that aesthetic of like a guard that you really want. Just in terms of like the depth of his arms and everything like that, full chest. He's a big dude. He's only 20 years old too.
Yeah, that's right. 20.
Yeah, big, strong. And then what I like, so 2-year starter. And the other thing I like, he's a captain. So I go back to what Tom Coughlin used to do. He used to get draft captain. So those are guys, like, people think it's weird to look at that, but those are things that matter. You want guys with leadership. It says a lot of what they're doing. So yeah, Bama guy, I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take an interior lineman from Alabama any day of the week. Right?
Absolutely right. Exterior might be a little different, but interior,
Tackles is a separate. We don't talk about that.
right.
Georgia tackles though, they work out like a charm.
True.
Ohio State interior lineman Donovan Jackson. All right, so we're on to this dude. His position rank, he's right up there. Probably a third round guy. Gave up 2 sacks. I know it's a little different for guard, but what do you got on him, guys?
Yeah, Sean.
All right. So, listen, you keep having me talk, good about Ohio State guys here. It's tough for me. It's very tough.
What do you think I feel? Damn it, I got to go over like
I
at least
know.
2 Michigan players every single week. I don't think we've ever gone over a Michigan State Spartan, not once.
That's because they're not good.
You're preaching to the choir here, man.
And it's weird not having a Michigan lineman to talk about here either. Like all these linemen, not one Michigan person.
They all graduated last year, so
yeah, all the good ones, right? But listen, Donovan Jackson's a 3-year starter. He's a prototypical guard. I mean, there's a lot of good things that you can say about him. I'm sure Truth will cover a lot of things too. But to keep it simple and easy, he's a prototypical guard. And he also was moved mid-season over to tackle, and he did really well at tackle. So there's a guy that's versatile. So you like that there.
Love it now, yeah.
He did not, and he wasn't just sufficient at tackle. He did really well. Like there was concerns that when they had to adjust the line at Ohio State, that line was going to be awful, and he came in and he did really well, really well. So, yep, I like the guy.
Yep, yeah, quality player, like you said, versatile, very athletic. Has good high IQ, from what I've read about him, and again, he's going to be a top 60 player taken in draft.
All right, well, guys, we're moving on. This is the aesthetic that you really like to see for some interior linemen because this guy is Tate Rattledge is just a pure redneck. He's got the luxurious mullet you've ever seen in your entire life.
Yes,
and you do need at least one interior lineman with a mullet. I don't think you can get away with too many neatly parted hairs or, short. Like you need a dude with a mullet.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's my take on him. So guys, over to you.
Well, his mullet fits his playing style. He's a tenacious blocker. He likes.
You have to earn the mullet, by the way. You can't.
Yeah.
Right.
He's another guy. Like when I watch football games, I've said this many times. I always watch the line and see how guys the linemen block. See how well the defensive linemen stay in their pursuits. They don't give up. And here's another guy who, when he finishes a tackle, he finishes a block. I mean, he'll grade that guy right into the ground. I like the kid. He's got good balance. A typical Georgia Bulldog lineman. I mean, what else can you say about him? Quality player. Another guy, probably top 60, maybe 70th player taken in the draft.
Yeah, 3-year starter, so another good thing right there. Guard only, size and power, like Drew said. I think you gotta watch out with Georgia and their linemen. You got to make sure you got to check to see if they have any DUIs because
Oh jeez.
Ben Cleveland
like he probably has 2 or 3, and then maybe like a rare arrest, like he has an alligator that he didn't have a license for.
Yeah. Ben Cleveland just had that happen to him, and he's out of Georgia. So Georgia, O line or D line, you got to watch out for them with driving. So. But listen, again, we talk about programs where you just like, all right, I'm going to draft a guy that comes to that program. O-lineman out of Georgia or where you want to go. Those guys are massive and nasty. And, Kirby Smart learned a lot from Saban. So he's got those big, nasty O-linemen. So, yep.
Yep.
All right, one more lineman, and then let's talk a little bit specific to the Giants. So Luke Handra out of Cincinnati, he's the one guard that actually gave up 0 sacks over this past year. Probably a 4th-round caliber player, or 3rd or 4th out of Cincinnati. What do you guys got?
Sean, go ahead.
So interesting about him is he started at Louisville and then transferred to Cincinnati. So, again, you go from an ACC to then Big 12 with, again, type of competition. All right. I like it. Did well there. He's a bulldozer. He's got great football IQ in his club. He puts that club out there. He's got that club technique. So it's a guy that he impressed a lot of people at Cincinnati when he transferred there. I know that he's very highly regarded. I think he was first team all conference, if I'm not mistaken, for Big 12. So yeah, it's a guy that, again, at that size and what he did, I think he's a good one. But What I really like is he's got, excellent football IQ, and that's exactly what you want. And that there's not too many people are talked about, but I want guys with good football IQ.
Yeah. We covered a lot of guys today, and a lot of talented players. And I touched on the guy who I like at tackle, the kid Ozzie Japil out of Boston College. Here's another kid who doesn't get a lot of ink, but I like him. I like this kid for a lot of things you said, Shawn. And also, he's got good technique, very clean. He's efficient, not a lot of wasted motion when you watch him block. Stays very tight. He reminds me of, and it's a big one, is Zeitler. He reminds me of Zeitler when Zeitler came out of Wisconsin. Same kind of body frame, same type of makeup. He looks like him, looks the part. Here's a kid that, listen, if this kid falls in round 5 and the Giants are looking for a lineman, I got no problem with that. They take this kid. No problem with it.
Yeah.
So, guys, we're at the end of the show now. I have one more guy that I did like, and this is because Daniel Jeremiah said he did really well at the Senior Bowl. So I had to look into it. Because he was noted as a pretty lousy run blocker throughout the season. But Anthony Belton out of North Carolina State was something that was relatively impressive. And just wanted to make a little notation there that he's of a similar caliber, probably fourth round guy, but did well at the Senior Bowl.
I was going to put him in there. I was debating, but God, if I would have put 19, we would have had a riot here. If I would have done 19 guys,
you absolutely would have. True. You would not have had the special guest Joker. That's for sure.
Listen, I'll tell you what. We have covered just about every player, like everybody.
I do want to give one shout out though, because I want to give out a shout out to another player because we didn't talk about centers, but I know he's really undersized, and my brain tonight, I forgot his name, but the center out of North Carolina is a guy that did really, really well. The
little guy, 5'11" guy?
Yeah, he's like 5'10", 5'11", yeah. But he did really well. He's got nastiness to him, and he performed very well at the Senior Bowl, and his name escapes me right now.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I had him too, but I think his size, even though he did well, I think he'll be taken on day 3, mid to late. But listen, he could be a good player in the NFL, good rotational lineman.
He did, and again, he was
see centers. I think of Jeff Saturday.
Yeah, right. I mean, listen, it's a guy that if you watch the Senior Bowl practices, he didn't shy away from competition. He got in the reps. He didn't back down from anybody. In fact, he stonewalled Deion Walker out of Kentucky.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he did. He played him like
shut him down. So that's a guy that, again, later on, but
And you know what's funny, Shawn? The things that they talk about Deion Walker, one of his negatives is he plays high.
Yep.
That played right into this kid's hands. He's so low that he had no chance. He had no chance against them.
Nope. And he did against other. Yeah,
Mark Thompson. What his name is?
Mark Thompson.
You know what his name is? Look it up. Let us know.
Yeah, look it up quick. I mean, I could look it up too.
North Carolina. Yeah.
Center. I had his name and then I forgot because I'm getting older now.
Can he play guard too? Is he also versatile?
I don't remember. He only played center at the Senior Bowl, so I don't think they moved him to guard if I remember correctly. But he's smart too. Like he's smart, and I like the toughness. He's a guy that had the towel coming out of the backside of him, and don't mess with centers that wear towels on the backside because they're tough guys.
Oh yeah.
That. There's that lesson. You see a center wearing no, not that guy.
No.
Is it Willie Lampkin? Is that it?
Lampkin.
Yeah, Lampkin.
That's it. Lampkin. 5'11". Was he 290? 5'11", 290.
Crypto's on a roll tonight. God damn it, Crypto. Come on, man.
Listen. All right. I'll say real quick. Josh Zudu should have never been moved to tackle. He's a better guard. He did well. He did really well his rookie year as a guard, but they screwed up by moving him to tackle.
Yeah, and the kid did his best. You can't blame him.
Yeah. Because he at one point he's a guy that played in college. He played all 5 positions in one game. Imagine trying to do that. So that's probably why they moved him out. Him and McKeithen, who stayed injured and weren't developed by Bobby Johnson. I'll say that, but they were in the same line that had 2,000-yard rushers in the same season.
That's right. Carter. Who's the other kid? Carter.
I can't remember. I can barely remember what I had for lunch yesterday. So remembering 5 years ago. Or whatever. But again, those guys weren't developed, and we saw that, right? So let's not cancel people out. And McKeithen was getting better, but he just couldn't stay injured. So
Yeah.
whatever that was, right? But Azudu gets too much hate, and
Yeah.
rightfully so at tackle. But as a guard, he was really good. He was splitting reps
Don't
with
give
Ben
up on
Bredesen.
him. Don't give up on him, guys. I'm telling you.
Yep, move him back to guard.
Yep, he'll be a good backup depth piece, and that's what you need in the NFL.
I
You
know.
got to have depth. You got to have depth.
I know. And listen, truth, they all laughed at me in the offseason when I talked about Jake Kubis, and what happened with Jake Kubis, right? He came in, he did well. So,
Who laughed at you? Who laughed at you, Craig?
No, Jay
Crypto,
and a bunch
David.
of other Giants fans, Crypto, Jay and a couple other Giants fans were like, "Oh, who's Jake Kubis?" Blah blah blah. All right, we saw.
When we're scoring 3 points per game, people are just like, oh, the whole thing sucks. It's like, no, actually, if you look, our offensive line held it together those last 7 weeks, except for the Bucks game. That was the biggest hemorrhage I've ever witnessed in my entire life. But outside of that game, it was really improved.
Yeah.
Look,
I don't. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, I don't, in my mind, I don't see the Giants taking a lineman in the draft. I think there's too many other things that they need in the draft and can benefit from. I think they'll go the undrafted free agent route and then free agency to get a lineman. That's my prediction.
I agree. I think the Giants are going to try for one of the top guards that's available. But does it mean I bet you past round 3, they'd be looking at anybody that slides? That's going to be my guess. They'll start going BPA. I expect them to take a running back around 4, so I think they might even wait till 5.
They got 2 picks in 4, so they can take a running back.
They can do both. Ooh, I bet you I do think they take a lineman. I do think it's going to be later though. I don't think it's going to be 3 or above.
Let me tell you what I think, if it matters. I agree that they need to get a starter in free agency, and I agree with you, Shawn, that they can't think mid-tier. They need to grant hit a home run here. They need to go for a sure thing. And
no mystery boxes.
Right.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Yep. But I mean, if I was a Shane and I let's say I did that, I got my guy. Let's just throw it out there, Trey Smith. We get Trey Smith. I would not have an issue of going for a versatile lineman in the draft who can play all positions. Just let him develop. No need to rush him, but you have that extra piece, and you don't know what you're going to get.
Please, your price. No more rushing the lineman. No more. no, none of this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got some guys that they brought in, and my personal opinion is, if they don't move Neal to guard, they're going to use him as the swing tackle.
That's a good point. Yeah, they could do that.
I agree.
Because
what else are you going to do with him then, right?
Again, they may move him to guard. I don't know. I mean, it's going to help with the depth. I know you don't want a number 7 pick, being, a swing tackle or a backup or whatever, but he did show some progress last year. And if you get under Brasillo, but I think I can't see them moving Illuminor back to guard and having Neal at tackle the way they were going to do last season.
I just think Illuminor did too good at right tackle to consider moving him around right now.
Yeah. And again, I think with his ankle injuries and, missing it almost a year and a half of time and not getting really good coaching, it really slowed his progress. But anyway, we don't need to talk about Neal.
Yeah, we can't go into this year with a Hubbard as your swing tackle, a guy like that. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking when they picked him up, but we got to come up with something better. And I don't know who it was on NFL Network that said the Giants their linemen the ones who played a lot of snaps got to become the backups, and they got to replace them with starters. They got to get better depth.
But yeah, they got to get depth and actually practice the execution of building up the depth. I mean, look, all those guys that the Eagles took, in the mid rounds, as linemen like Landon Dickerson, he's a 2nd round pick, or Cam Jurgensen, they got to really sit behind elite offensive linemen with a good offensive lineman coach. But I guarantee you, if either of those two came to the Giants during that same time period, it would have been a messier start to their careers.
Yeah, and I mean the entire line didn't fall apart last season like it did the year before when injuries happened, right? Like they were still productive, they still did good things.
Yeah.
We just had quarterbacks that didn't know what they were doing and
The worst quarterback room in the history of ever.
Yeah, couldn't find open guys, walked in the sacks, did whatever it did. And listen, here's the interesting part, and I put this out on Twitter today. So the Giants O-line only gave up 48 sacks last year, which is 3 more sacks than the Philadelphia Eagles gave up last season.
And,
Really?
and almost half of what they gave up the year before.
Yeah, they gave up 80. Yeah, they gave up 85 sacks.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't really too great, was it? Carmen Bristolo should be in the Hall of Fame for that alone.
No,
Yes.
like Shawn said, I know you get a lot of shit on Twitter, on X, about Bricillo, but he is doing a good job, and you can't expect him in one season to turn everything around. He's implementing new techniques with all these guys. They got to learn it. They got to make it feel natural for them, so they don't have to think. Football's instincts. You don't think, you just react. And I think another year with him and with these guys learning, developing, you're gonna see a difference, Giant line, and they gotta stay healthy. Especially Thomas. I mean, that's huge when he goes down. That's a big issue when he goes down.
I will be honest. I think the most overrated concern as a whole for the Giants right now is their offensive line.
I agree with that. They got to get better. They need to put points on the board. They cannot score 13 points a game. So that starts with your quarterback, right? You got to get a quarterback. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that quarterback position before the draft. That will tell you what they're going to do in the draft, I think, anyway.
Yeah, well, and week 17 against the Colts, the Giants had they were in the top 5 of O lines for that week, right? So how bad could they be if you're in the top 5 for one particular week? That never happened in 2023. So you're right, Truth. I mean, another year under Bricillo, guys getting better. Like, there's fans that just want to focus on like 2 or 3 plays that are shown that are really bad plays from certain players, but they don't watch all the other ones where you see progress, right? So in a year and things were happening, Hubbard, was a bad move. Zudo at tackle was a bad move. That was a bad plan. But they pivoted quickly. That's the difference. Like, right? Like, they're not stuck with guys. Like, how long do we have to see Eric Flowers in there? Or how long do we have to see other guys stay at a position that we're getting beat all day long?
Soldier was the one I couldn't get over. We just kept running it back with that dude. And it's like, guys, first of all, we're getting looted financially. But, like, every time he would go out there every season, it was just a train wreck.
Yeah, you could see it. So at least to give credit here, they didn't run Hubbard out there the rest of the season. They moved the Luminar over. They made a pivot. They did what they needed to do, and they moved quick. So they may make mistakes, which people are going to make mistakes, but we don't have to deal with it for forever. And again, if you want to complain about Neal and they should have moved him already, you miss a year and a half. He's the number 7 pick. You got a new O-line coach. You want to see what he can do with the new O-line coach, and let Carm Bricillo decide. Carm Bricillo is going to decide where Evan Neal should be. And to me, Carm Bricillo has earned his right to determine where somebody's going to go. He's got the track record. So,
do you think he'll give him some snaps before the season during practice?
I think so. He got some snaps at guard last season. So I think Neal's just got to build up his confidence. Think about this, and again, the big thing about Neal is he went from a turnstile. He gave up 2 sacks last season. Right? That's big improvement. Did he have some really bad plays? Yes, he did. But he also looked better on some plays. And I know everybody's on you got to move the guard because Beck didn't happen, and everybody's been saying it. It just, I think you got to give him time because he's going into year 4, but he didn't have a full 3 years before entering year 4 is what I'm saying.
And I'll always say this, too, about Neal, because we got to remember that his progress. He went from being drafted as a left tackle to playing right tackle, opening up against Micah Parsons, the Cowboys. Yep. So he's already off to a very tough transition because Justin Pugh said going left to right is really hard, and he had to do it in his rookie year. Yep. Then the next year, he had that injury that wasn't really caught. I can't figure out what happened there. But
his foot, right? Broken foot or something?
Yeah, he had a broken foot he was playing on. It wasn't healing, and so – that season's a bust. And so last year he takes a step back. He's resting. His confidence has to come back. But you're right. He played effective football. And that's why, I'm not giving up on him just yet. I'm curious to see what he does this year, but you know, no guarantees. You can't just stick him at guard probably right now. You probably have to like keep him his depth like to the left side of the line or the right side. That's how it's going to be.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing, if you remember, he was having a really, really good camp, and then he got injured, and that set him back again. So it's all those things, and you come and you get rusty. And listen, that same move that Neil looked really bad against Micah Parsons, Joe Thomas had the same thing, or Joe Staley had the same thing done to him by an edge rusher, and he did the same spin move and looked just as bad. And we all know how good Joe Staley was, right? So it happens. It absolutely happens. So listen, if they move him to guard, I'm all for it, right? And if it strengthens our line and he's better as a guard, then absolutely. Nobody's going to complain about that, right? So, but I just say leave it up to Priscillo. Like, he's earned that right to make that decision. And he's going to be the one that makes that decision because, again, it was Bobby Johnson who decided to move, Izzuto out to tackle because he had that versatility. It was Bobby Johnson who was responsible for other guys that were there or certain guys that were drafted as well. Like, the one thing that I've learned and I've heard is that the position coaches, especially when it comes to line, they do have a lot of influence of where guys play. It's not Shane making the decision of where guys are going to play. It's not just Dayball making that decision. It is the position coaches. So leave it up to Carm.
Amen. Well, Giants fans, look, I want to thank you all for coming out here. Shawn, thank you for coming on the show. Next week, we got Cam Ward's high school football coach. And for the first time since we've been working together on Rush, me and Truth will actually be meeting each other in person. That's right. He's going to be giving me some golf lessons. We're going to be down in South Carolina. We're going to go live together from there, and we'll have on Cam Ward's coach. So tune on in. We'll ask similar questions to what we asked Jalen Monroe's coach. But we're looking forward to the episode, and thank you all for tuning in tonight.
Take care, guys.
Peace,
See you
everybody.
guys.